Today, I'll be reviewing this 2022 Tesla Model X Plaid. Now, the Model X Plaid is arguably the most insane SUV you could buy today. And that's because it comes with 3 electric motors producing over 1,000 horsepower and 1,000 pound-feet of torque. Insane numbers. 0 to 60, 2.3 seconds, quarter mile time, under 10 seconds. Yes, insane. However, this Model X Plaid can still be used as a daily driver. In fact, this is my own car, and I've been driving this Model X Plaid for about a month now. So in this review video, I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about this Model X Plaid. Also, tell you how it behaves as a daily driver. And lastly, compare it to some of the other Teslas I've owned in the past and the ones I've reviewed. And also compare it to other EVs I reviewed from other manufacturers. All right, let's get started. All right, I'm behind the wheel. Let me tell you more about this Model X Plaid. First of all, let me talk about the overall look, because back in 2021, Tesla did refresh this Model X and Model X Plaid, although at first glance, you can't really tell. The overall shape and dimensions is identical to the first generation. But there's subtle cues, subtle differences. First of all, if you look at the window trim and the door handles, they are now black rather than chrome. That's the number one thing that changed. Number two is the front bumper. The front bumper has changed slightly. Although if you don't have them side by side, again, it's really hard to tell that the bumper has changed, right? But the biggest giveaway has to be the interior. The interior has been completely refreshed. The dash, center console, the screen, everything has been changed. And I'll get to the interior in a little bit, but let's stick with the outside. Now, as for the overall dimensions, has not changed at all. The width, the height, the length, exactly the same as the previous generation. Now, that's a little disappointing because the Model S Plaid, which I've owned briefly before this car, that one was slightly wider than the previous Model S, and that's because the tires and the wheels has been expanded. It's wider, so Tesla had to make the fenders bulge out a little bit, but that made a big difference. I kind of wish that Tesla did make this X Plaid wider too, but unfortunately that's not the case. But with that said, I still think this Model X Plaid is a really, really good looking SUV. It's round, kind of like an egg shape. It's almost like a hatchback slash SUV shape. It's hard to define, but it has its own look. And to me, it looks good. It looks good. The front end is simple. It's beautiful, curvy. The headlights have their unique shape, slender. The daytime running lights looks good. Now the bottom bumper, which now has the turning signal, you know, slightly revised, but overall, I think it's a good looking vehicle. Let's put it that way. But it's not aggressive. It's not bold like a Ford Raptor, okay, or a Bronco Raptor. It's not like that. It's a different look. And if you go to the side profile, I like the lines, sleek edges. And I do think with all the window trim and the door handles being black, makes a big difference. And it really pops, especially when you want that contrast. Now, in terms of the wheels, there are a couple to choose from. You could choose 20-inch wheels, 22-inch wheels. I chose the 22-inch wheels for this Plaid because I think it definitely needs 22-inch wheels because this Plaid is a big car. And the 20s, although they look okay, 22s look better. And what makes this Model X Plaid looks even better is when you lower it. It does come with air suspension, height adjustable air suspension, so you can go low and really, really low, although if you start driving the car, it automatically raises, but you can lower it and it definitely looks better. But you could also raise it. You could raise it really high up, and it kind of looks awkward when you're in a very high position. But if you did need to, you know, go rock climbing and there's some obstacles that you need to go over, well, it comes in handy, right? So it is height adjustable, but overall, you know, I like the shape, you know, nice shape overall. And of course, when you open the doors, big difference. You get Falcon doors in the back and automatic doors in the front. So yes, every single door is automatic. The trunk is automatic. I take that back. Well, no, I don't take it back. The frunk, it's not a door, so I'm still technically right. The frunk is not automatic. You can pop it open, but you have to close it manually, which is still weird. I don't know why Tesla doesn't make that into a power frunk lid. But everything can be opened from your app. You could do it from your key fob as well. Really, really convenient. But yeah, when you open those Falcon doors, it's beautiful. And everything in the back, the trim is blacked out. The LED tail lights, of course, they're smoked. Looks good. I think overall, I think this Model X Plaid looks good. Although the disappointment is, kind of looks the same as the previous Model X's. Now, I mentioned about the frunk already. This is what it looks like, and it's absolutely enormous. One thing that Tesla has mastered that no other EV manufacturer seems to have mastered is the frunk. And in the rear, with the third row up, you can see there's still a decent amount of room for your things. And of course, if you lift up the lid underneath, an enormous trunk. Again, basic class leading in terms of EV. There's really very little cars outside of Tesla that actually has a huge trunk space inside the cargo area, and it's enormous in this Model X. Now, of course, if you just wanted more cargo room, you could fold down the third row seats. Although you can't fold down the second row seats, you don't get the same kind of cargo room versus like a traditional normal SUV, which can fold down the second row seats. That's not available here. Now, I did mention about the interior. If you step in, you'll notice, yes, the steering wheel is a yoke steering wheel. It's like a half steering wheel. Takes getting used to. And then you have a large center screen that's no longer vertical. It's placed horizontally, which I like much better. And you still have that digital gauge cluster. So technically you have two screens versus the one that you'll find inside a Y or a Model 3, right? I definitely do think two screens is better than one. You can see the center console is also different. Center console has two wireless chargers, a lot of cubby holes inside, right? And the cup holder actually has an insert now, because my Model S Plaid did not have an insert, and my drinks like would go flying around, and somehow they added that recently. That's a small little change I found. I'm not sure when that came out, but it did, okay? But outside of that, it's very minimalistic in here. Even a turn signal, there's no stock for that. The turn signal is right on the steering wheel. You have to get used to it. And same thing with the wiper control. It's on the steering wheel. Your horn, unlike a traditional car where you could just smash the middle, no, there's a button for it. That I actually don't like at all. And I heard there was rumors about how Tesla was going to fix it and make the horn in the center, but it has not happened yet, right? So it takes getting used to it. No stocks, no knobs, no volume, nothing. Everything's on your steering wheel. And even with the steering wheel, you have to get used to it, because when you turn, obviously, there's less places to grab. So what I like to do is put my hands on the bottom, and it makes turning very easy. But the point of this yoke steering wheel is to give you more vision, right? Like your gauge cluster is not blocked at all. Now, as for the beautiful, huge, giant screen, you also use that to control whether you want to go forward and backwards. Although the Tesla can predict if you're going backwards or forwards, but you can manually control it. And there's a strip underneath just in case somehow the screen is not working. But overall, it has been pretty good. There's been no time where I swiped and it didn't register, so that's good. And in terms of the other controls, I mean, obviously inside the car, you could open all the doors, you could close all the doors, but there's a plethora of menu items, right? For your glove box, wiper, your suspension, your charging, autopilot, locks, lights. The list goes on and on and on. If you like to configure your own car, this X gives you basically every single option you could choose from. So that's fantastic, fantastic. And not only did the dash and center console change, the seats also changed. They look very nice, sporty design. They're vegan leather, which is just a fancy word for synthetic leather. The biggest difference has to be the way they feel. These seats are substantially better than the seats from the last generation. I mean, it's night and day. Go test drive a 2020 Model X and then go test drive a 2022 like this one. You'll see huge difference. So This makes driving this Model X Plaid so much more enjoyable. So big difference. Now, in the second row, with the Plaid, you can only get captain chairs. Easier for the kids to get in and out of the third row. And it's no different with this Model X. Now, with the Falcon doors, getting in and out is a breeze. And also, there's plenty of room. I'm 5'10", and behind my driving position, still about 3 to 4 inches, and endless headroom. Even with the doors closed, endless headroom. It's really weird because when the doors are closing on you, you almost feel like your head's gonna get chopped off in a way, right? But obviously it's not. But yeah, you have to get used to that. And getting the third row is quite easy, although there's not much space back there. It's really reserved for kids or emergencies for adults. Now, something else new is that screen in the back, right? Wasn't there in the previous Model X. Now it is, and that screen can be used to watch movies. You can control heated seats, climate control, your audio system, which unfortunately sucks because the kids can just change your radio station. So luckily you can lock them out up here. But yeah, there's a lot of features back there. The only thing that you can't do back there is play games, which is unfortunate, right? You figure there are a lot of games in here for the kids to play, and you can even use your favorite controller. Why not build that in the back so they can play that while you're driving? I don't know. Hopefully they add that in the future with the OTA update. Now, speaking of price, unfortunately, the 2021 Model X was much cheaper than the current 2022. Unfortunately, you couldn't even get one. Due to supply chain issues, this new redesign, even though technically it came out in 2021, no one got it in 2021. Everyone started getting it in 2022. So it really depends on when you ordered it. But Tesla did change the pricing on this Model X in a big way. The base model went up by $30,000, and the Plaid also went up by nearly as much. So now it costs like $30,000 more to buy a regular X or a X Plaid. Acceleration will definitely not disappoint you inside this Model X Plaid. It is by far the fastest SUV you could buy today. You know, with the Model S Plaid, which I've owned, that one is faster, but you know, when you're accelerating normally, you're just not gonna tell. I mean, the two are so close. When you floor it, you know, you get pushed back and the blood flows into your head, and it's not really enjoyable. Though you hear people laugh and giggle, it's because they're hiding the pain. It's really not enjoyable at all to feel like 1G of blood like shoot up into your head. So yeah, 0 to 60 about 2.3 seconds, which is slower than the S Plaid, which comes in right around 1.99-ish, right? But normal world driving, you're not gonna feel it. Tesla really mastered the throttle feel. There is no other EV on the market where the throttle feels as precise and as good as a Tesla's. And I've driven almost all of them. As for the brakes, also enjoyable, but with the Model X and the X Plaid, and same with the S, and pretty much the whole lineup, Y and 3, you can't turn off regenerative braking. That is something other manufacturers started to do. Like, for example, I recently tested a Hyundai Ioniq and the Kia EV6, and they gave you paddle shifters, so you can actually adjust up or down the regenerative braking, which I thought was genius. But with Tesla, you can't. So you just have to get used to regenerative braking, which most people hate. But once you get used to it, one pedal driving is actually quite enjoyable, so you just have to get used to it. But just know, as soon as you let off the gas, as soon as you let off the accelerator, you're gonna feel that instant slowdown right away. Now, I will say regenerative braking on the X feels a little bit less than the S. And that's probably because this SUV weighs a ton more than the S. So I do think it's probably the same system, but it just slows down less because the car carries more due to this weight. Now, something else that Tesla mastered is the steering feel. There's no EV car out there that has a steering feel as precise and as solid feeling as a Tesla. And it's no different with this Model X. There is zero play, zero. It is like the steering wheel is bolted directly to the wheels. It feels so insanely precise. Any little movement, I'm talking about just a slight millimeter movement in the steering wheel, you feel it with the car. It's insanely good. Now, the yoke steering wheel, on the other hand, does take getting used to. It takes a long time to get used to. It requires you to retrain yourself. Throughout your many years of driving, you have gotten used to a round steering wheel so that you could do hand over hand turns really easy. With this, no, you can't. You're trying to grab it and there's nothing grabs. And then the turn signals, you got to remember which one is which. And, you know, when it starts raining and, you know, you got to turn on your wipers, although you could put it into auto. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you just have to get used to. Now, as for the suspension, the Model X Plaid really excels with the suspension feel, the comfort, okay? Because of the long travel, I do think that this is the most comfortable Tesla you could buy today. And this one is equipped with 22-inch wheels. I do think if you downgrade to the 20-inch wheels, it'll probably feel more comfortable because you get a little bit more sidewall. But even with the 22s, this definitely soaks up more bumps and more imperfections than the Model S Plaid I had before, which was already pretty good, but this is just better. So if you're looking for a very comfortable daily driver, this is it for Tesla. Now, the Model Y and the Model 3, the suspension on both of them is quite harsh. Now, besides just suspension, the Model X to me is more comfortable than the S because of the sitting position. The Model X is a foot higher than the Model S. So for me, I think it's just really easy to get in and out. I don't have to like kind of fall into the seat, right? Like for me, I think this is a really good sit-in height, step out height, right? I think it's just perfect. And of course, you can adjust it. If you think it's too low, you could raise your suspension and you can make the car remember that. So every time you go home, it'll auto raise for you. If you go to a drive-through, you can have the auto raise for you, right? So it's really cool that it can remember it. But I think overall, it's just so much easier to get in and out. Something else that's really cool about this Model X is this enormous front windshield that goes all the way up here, right? So it makes you feel like you're in a space shuttle or something. There's so much visibility. The only downside to it is, you know, the visor is quite small and it's not really blocking anything. Although the upper side is tinted, but when there's like heavy sun that's shining above, right, you kind of wish you could block the sun up there. You really can't. So the visor, the sun visor is just really small. But normally speaking, it's really cool. And people in the rear, they also get windows within their Falcon doors, so that's also pretty cool. So to conclude, do I like my Model X Plaid? Yes, I do, although I'm biased because this is my own car. But I do think this has a perfect combination of everything I'm looking for. If you want speed, you're going to get it. There's no SUV that comes anywhere close to the performance of this. And if you're looking at the numbers, it's in hypercar territory already, right? So speed, check, you got it. In terms of looks, I do think it looks quite good, very unique. And of course, there's no other car that really has auto doors and Falcon doors in this price range. And I do think that it's very practical in terms of cargo room, right? The front space, the trunk space, overall cargo room, and passenger room. And also, I do like the fact that this is a 3-row SUV. You also get captain chairs in the second row, which also makes it easy for kids to get in and out of, right? So there's so many things I love about this Model X. And also, I do like the fact that it is taller than my previous Model S, makes it very convenient. And this Model X Plaid also drives very well. I talked about the perfect steering, the perfect throttle. of course, the insane speed, but the comfort's also very nice. The suspension is nice, and it's quiet, and the seats are comfortable. The interior has been improved vastly. So I like all these things, and that's why I really enjoy this Model X Plaid, and I think it's a great, fantastic daily driver, although it is expensive. I recognize that. You can not get the Plaid and get a regular Model X, and it costs about $30,000 less. So it really depends on what you're looking for. In terms of complete package, I think this is right for me, but it might not be right for everyone. So I definitely recommend you guys to check out my other videos on the Model S and then the Model Y, Model 3. I have reviewed all of them, and also the EVs from the other manufacturers. So make sure you check them out. By the way, I didn't talk about Summon and autopilot, enhanced autopilot, and full self-driving, and that's because I'm reserving these topics for another video where I want to demonstrate them fully for you guys. So that is coming up in the future. All right, smash it a like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for my future videos. Take care. Bye-bye.